Howdy again everyone. Viltrox have found great success with one of their recent new portrait lenses, their AF 135mm f1.8 Lab. Big and heavy, but very sharp and great value for money. I've tested it already on Sony E-mount, where it performed great. Well, now it's making its way over to Nikon Z mount, so today I'll be testing that version of this full-frame lens. I wanted to see exactly how it performs on Z mount, so I've done a complete new test. Aside from anything else, I was also curious about sample variation as well. As an autofocus full-frame optic, this kind of lens is the dream of most portrait photographers and event photographers too. A specialist telephoto optic able to give you quite wildly out-of-focus backgrounds in your images, which are nicely compressed as well. It's a dream to use a lens like this, although it's certainly a tighter image than an 85mm portrait lens. Just like on Sony E-mount, the lens's price will be £829 or so here in the UK, $899 US, or €999, which is potentially great value. I'd like to thank Viltrox for sending me one of these for testing, although as usual, this is a totally independent review and they've had no input into the video at all. The lens itself is big, as you can see, and despite being mostly made of plastic, it is still heavy at 1.2 kilos or 2 3/4 pounds. Well, understandable really, considering the very large glass element inside. One criticism I still have about the build quality is that, as you upturn the lens, you can hear and feel glass elements bumping around inside, something which I absolutely hate to feel, but this is actually becoming normal for even the most expensive first-party lenses nowadays, and it's not causing any damage, so I guess it's just something we have to get used to. The big metallic Lens Z mount is weather sealed and features a USB-C port for future firmware updates. Then we get a screen. Both Viltrox and occasionally Nikon like to feature these little OLED screens, and they're far more ornament than use, but they do look very cool and they do give you some nice information, and it breaks up the slight ugliness of the lens. The lens has Bluetooth and you can update its firmware, adjust settings, and even reprogram that screen by connecting it to your phone through the Viltrox app. You can even make the screen display your own custom images on startup. At the rear we also find focus limiter and auto manual focus switches. Between them comes an aperture ring, which is interesting. It's made of plastic and a small switch on the side lets you change between turning the ring smoothly or with clicks. Those clicks happen at every 9th of an f-stop, which is quite strange. I didn't like that. To get it into automatic or camera controlled mode, simply turn the ring all the way anti-clockwise. So just like on Sony E-mount, I had mixed feelings about that aperture ring. Then comes a rubberized manual focus ring, which turns lovely and smoothly, and as you can see here, it works very quickly with the focus motor, but rather jerkily, perhaps just a quirk of my older Z7 camera. You can also see some rather heavy focus breathing here, with the image zooming in as you focus more closely to your subject. The lens's autofocus motor works silently, reasonably quickly and accurately, and I had no issues with subject tracking or anything like that. The lens has an 82mm filter thread size and it does not feature image stabilization. Overall, the lens's build quality was fine here. I liked the lens's OLED screen even if it's a bit of a gimmick, but I wasn't a huge fan of the unusual aperture/control ring at the back. Anyway, let's look at image quality. I'll be testing it today on a Nikon Z7 with its 45MP full-frame sensor. In-camera corrections are turned on for this test. At f1.8 in the middle of the image, we get excellent sharpness and contrast right away. Stop down to f2.8 though for razor sharpness and a touch of extra contrast again. Anyway, let's open back up to f1.8 and look over into the corners. Great, we're still seeing excellent sharpness and contrast here, which is great news for such a lens in this price range. The only issues are a bit of darkness from vignetting and just a tiny touch of ghosting on contrasting edges. Stop down to f2.8 for more brightness and contrast, but still just a tiny edge of ghosting on contrasting edges. Stop down to f5.6 and that corner image quality is finally completely perfect. The lens stays this sharp down to about f11, but it's at f16 that softness from diffraction finally really begins to kick in. Overall though, this would be a fantastic performance for a more expensive portrait lens, let alone one in this price range, so kudos to Viltrox, great work there. Alright, let's turn off in-camera corrections and take a look at distortion and vignetting. As before, at f1.8 we see barely any distortion at all, although vignetting is noticeable at f1.8. Stop down to f2.8 and it's gone, so that's a very good showing. Next, close-up image quality, and with a minimum focus distance of 70 cm, the lens offers you very good magnification here. At f1.8, close-up image quality is a bit hazy with some purple fringing. Stop down to f2.8 though, and it gets perfect again. And now, work against bright lights. The lens is working just okay here. While we don't see loads of flaring, we do get some broader glaring and a loss of contrast with bright lights directly in the image. Next, bokeh. The quality of this lens's out-of-focus backgrounds is pretty vital. Over on Sony E-mount it looked great. I took a whole load more sample images with this Z mount lens and it was, well, more of exactly the same. Backgrounds look fantastically smooth in every situation I could throw at them. Specular highlights look smooth too without any outlining, and they only display an average cat's eye shape in image corners, so it's pretty much 10 out of 10 there. And finally, related to bokeh comes longitudinal chromatic aberration. Just like on Sony E-mount, this is where the otherwise high quality gives way a little, as we see strong bokeh fringing at f1.8. At f2.8 it's greatly reduced, and at f4 it's gone. Overall, well, it's great to see this excellent Viltrox lens working so very well over on Nikon Z mount too. It's working perfectly, really, and it's as sharp as ever. I know that Z mount camera owners are really going to appreciate the extra choice in portrait lenses available now, and that Canon RF shooters are going to be a little bit jealous. So, as before, the lens continues to come highly recommended. Did you enjoy that video? Well, you weren't really supposed to, it's more of an avant-garde piece really, but if that's your kind of thing anyway, then check out my channel for over 900 more camera lens reviews, all neatly ordered into handy playlists, and if you really appreciate these videos, then check out my Patreon page down in the description below for more ways to support the channel and get a whole load of exclusive bonus content as well. Ciao for now, everyone.